Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Broadcasting live from our Sanctum Sanctorum in Venice, California. I'm Krista.
I'm Kristen.
And we are the Sixth Sense Society. Welcome to another episode of the Sixth Sense Society. We are most welcome to have our guest Mabel Rodriguez on tonight, who is an influential speaker, life coach, and author in the field of personal and spiritual growth. Over the last decade, she has helped countless women connect to their gifts, own their worth, and love their authentic selves to create successful lives. The book that she has written that we're going to speak a little bit of tonight is called Lit, Embracing Your Darkness to Find Your Light. She lives with her son and husband in Marina del Rey, and she is also expecting another child. So welcome again.
Thank you.
So before we get into the heart of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the cosmic weather, and there's going to be one day next week that's very interesting. So tonight we have a waxing gibbous moon in the sign of Leo. I often notice we have a Leo moon when we're broadcasting, so I think that's great for the performance. So the big day next week is Wednesday the 20th. We have the sun moving into Aries at 2:59 p.m., and we have a full moon in Libra at 0 degrees Libra 9 minutes at 6:43 p.m. But it's also the vernal equinox. It is the thelemic new year, and it's Purim for those of you that are Jewish. It starts on Wednesday and that ends on Thursday. So it's a really cool day, Wednesday this week. And I thought we could talk a little bit about what we think about the full moon in Libra. One of the things you'll notice right away is that the moon and the sun are going to be opposing each other. So you have the Aries-Libra thing happening. And oppositions I find are, I like that Hermetic principle of being able to reconcile opposition. So that's how I look, even though it's a hard aspect. And the one thing I did want to mention kind of briefly, I looked at the U.S. chart, which we've talked about before in previous shows. And Saturn is in Libra in the 10th house. So I thought it might bring some light to some of the issues going on in the government, especially around justice. And so I think it might be a good news day, maybe around some of the, the Mueller's report or things connected to that. Even, I'm not quite sure specifically, but I just thought it might heighten and get more information out about that on that day. And then, of course, the equinox is a day of balance. So it's a good time to maybe take a look at things in your own life that you want to have more balance in. Full moon is associated with any kind of magic. Whatever tradition you want to, you can always use a full moon for any kind of magic. So I just think it's going to be a really powerful, interesting, and celebratory day. What do you think about it?
Well, I think the spring is amazing, and it's been so cold. Even here in California, we've had a really cold winter. And I think we're all ready for the rebirth. What's really interesting about this particular full moon is that it's one of two full moons in Libra. So we have 0 degree full moon in Libra coming up on Wednesday, right at the spring equinox. And then a month from now, we have this second full moon in Libra. Now we've had, I believe, 5 full moons at 0 degrees starting in December. And so it's been this very rapid fire of like the new, accept the new, reevaluate, rebirth. And this is the last one. Now, what's interesting to me when I thought about this is with Libra, we had this Venus retrograde earlier at the end of 2018. Now, it was in Scorpio and in Libra. So I think there's been a lot of looking at relationships and partnerships, whether they be romantic, whether they be business, whether they be family, whether they be friends. And there's something calling to me about this period of time between these two Libra full moons that I think there's a real opportunity to crack into some ideas we have about self-worth, self-love, loving other people, all kinds of partnerships. And it might even be something that began to happen around that Venus retrograde in the Libra time. So I felt it was kind of important to kind of point that out, that there may be a journey that you've been on with some kind of partnership since that time.
That's a really good point, because someone had said today they thought it was Mercury in retrograde in Pisces that was causing people to talk more about their relationship problems. I said, that doesn't make sense to me, but that makes sense, because then
Absolutely.
I thought about the Venus in Scorpio, being Venus is really about that deep kind of love. And Libra is also very much an idea energy. And by the way, Aleister Crowley was a Libra. So I always like to mention things like that. And so, maybe also you can look at maybe Libra looking at the thoughts you have and patterns around relationships of all kinds, like you said. It isn't just love, but partnerships, business, and maybe a full moon is like, it illuminates things. So maybe there might be a chance to become very aware or conscious that day.
Yeah.
And then I just think it's cool that it's happening on the equinox, all of that. I don't know if it's always a full moon on the equinox.
I was wondering the same thing myself, but I think it's super cool and powerful that it is all happening at the same time. And I think it's a real good opportunity for us to really begin again. If you are looking for this place to kind of end certain things, or even, it doesn't have to be about cutting people off or ending anything, but it can be maybe it has to be new in order for it to continue to work. And sometimes that does mean modifying something. And sometimes it does mean distancing yourself or even cutting off the relationship. Or sometimes it means having a conversation with yourself or with the other or both, and finding out what needs to be done, what it's going to take for it to be more prosperous.
And one last thing I wanted to mention is that at least in Southern California, we're having these amazing painted lady butterflies, millions of them. And I see that as a really powerful, beautiful omen of transformation, like right before the springtime, because they're very magical. There's so much more with butterfly. So I think that's kind of cool that's happening.
I just thought that was so amazing when I heard that. It's so fitting with everything that's been going on as far as transformation goes, to have literally the symbol of transformation to be flooding in.
Yes.
It just was amazing. Now here in Los Angeles, we had amazingly very ferocious thunderstorms on like literally the night before, as Uranus was leaving Aries and going into Taurus. Now, of course, Taurus being the earth sign, I thought it was so fitting that it's this earthly sort of like big entrance, at least here in Los Angeles, where we're not really used to all of that. So between the butterflies and the lightning, it just feels like nature is coming alive and wanting to show itself and say, hey, I'm still here. You're doing all this technology and all this, all these other things in life, but, come back to the Mother Earth and how she can, there's always an opportunity to rebirth. There's always an opportunity for more.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, Michael, did you have some things you want to say about the upcoming shows before we get going?
Yeah, we have got some really great shows on tap. And first of all, last week we had an incredible ghost hunter here with Rick McCallum from Hollywood Ghost Hunters. And afterwards we did a ghost hunt in the lodge. And it was, needless to say, quite fascinating. We've always felt that there was a spirit of one of our past masters. And Krista seemed to make connection with him. And he did intelligently answer that it was Harry on several occasions. So we're pretty confident now that that's who the ghost is. And there was some other stuff. So it was interesting, and I think that those guys will be back. So if you didn't get the chance to check out that show, I encourage you to go back and listen to our last show again. It was amazing. Next show coming up, we have, again, from my lodge, Justin Colella. He's an incredible guy. He's trained as a hypnotist, so he's going to be talking about hypnosis, but he's also going to be talking about mind control in general and how governments and businesses practice elements of mind control, and that he learned as a hypnotist that he thinks they're trying to influence us to spend our dollars on their products and so forth. So it should be a fascinating evening with him. We have Krista's dad on tap coming up in a couple weeks. With Edgar Casey and Past Lives, and we've got a bunch of other shows that we're working on. So lots of great stuff coming up, and I'm super excited to have our show tonight, our guest. I've been really looking forward to this one, so I don't want to take up a ton of time, so I'm going to kick it back to you guys, and I may jump in if I feel so inclined. But have a great show, guys.
Thanks a lot. So let's start a little bit about your journey to writing your book, Lit, Embracing Your Darkness to Find Your Light. So tell us a little bit how you came to write the book, and maybe why you decided to actually put it down in words and publish it. Because not everybody does with their story, so that's an act of courage in and of itself.
Yeah, definitely. To be vulnerable and put your life out there? Oh yeah, very scary. So I never perceived myself as a writer. And that's the funny part, because I remember being in school and getting a bunch of red marks on my English papers. Yeah, so I was like, well, I'm not the writer. And it's interesting, it's not who we think we are that holds us back, it's who we think we're not. And I remember years ago when I felt really lost, I went to go see this lady, and she did a reading for me. And I remember her telling me that she looked at my birth chart and she said, oh my gosh, you're a born communicator. You will write one day. And I'm just getting chills right now. And I laughed. I'm like, okay, this lady obviously does not know what she's talking about. But I will never forget what she said. Because she really, truly was believing it. And she just said, it's all in your chart. You were born to boy, you can write. And so I left, and that was years ago. I think I was like 29 years old, and I was going through something like Saturn's return. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I just kept getting the messages. See, we always get messages, and I would go see somebody who was an author, and something inside of me was inspired to do that. And the words and the ideas, I want to do that. I want to write. And that was surprising to me, and I kept suppressing it. And then one thing after the other, I kept getting messages. And I remember seeing this one author, and she said that we all are storytellers. And she encouraged me, inspired me to share my story. And that's when it happened. I made a decision. It was a Friday night, and I told my husband, I'm going to write. I'm going to share my story. Mm-hmm. And I did not know how to write a book. That's another issue. I'm like, well, I don't know how to write a book. I don't even know how to tell a story. But it doesn't matter how. It's just when you decide, something powerful happens. It's like the universe is like, I hear you, and I will help you. And so Saturday I went to Palm Springs for a conference. And there I was, and everybody had to stand up and ask what they wanted. And I thought, oh, God, really? I don't want to do that. And then it was my turn. And I had to introduce myself and say, well, I just decided last night that I want to be a writer. I want to write. I want to share my story. Not that I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to share my story because I knew that what I had overcome was big. And there's a lot of women out there who don't have this information like I didn't. And I felt so lost. And so I knew this is something that I was being called to do. And that afternoon, when I said I wanted to learn I needed a book coach, 3 people came up to me with business cards. Wow. Yeah, 3 business cards that same day. Huh. And I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, it could happen like that. A decision is so magical and powerful. It was at the cellular level. And so I called all 3, and there was that one, and we connected. And 3 weeks later, I am writing, you guys. Writing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Because we talk a lot about magic here on the show. And magic doesn't have to be a lot of woo-woo stuff. I mean, certainly rituals are all beautiful and all of that, but magic really comes from within. We are walking, talking magic. And I think making a decision like that, really making it clearly, is magical. And if you mean it and you put it out there and you share it, you would be surprised at the help the universe will give you. There was, I think, the quote from Van Gogh, be bold.
Oh, that's my favorite quote. And I can't remember it because it's like a paragraph long.
And I remember one of the lines.
Boldness has genius.
Be bold, and unforeseen forces will come to your aid. Yes.
They did. Yes. It was one recognized.
It's magic.
It was magic.
Yes.
It's one recognized when your soul's guiding you and speaking to you. It's that voice. It kept coming. It would not leave me alone. Write the book. But then their ego was like, but you're not a writer. You can't write, remember? And then the soul was like, no, you need to write. And it wouldn't stop. And then finally I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. The courage came right through. And the decision came next. And then once the decision came, then of course you have to do the work. Right. You can't, the book's not going to write itself. It's the practical physicality, the action comes into play. And it's like, I gave it to you right here. Now you show up and do the work. And so I got my computer and I got my coach and off I went.
Wow.
And honestly, I like to read books about writing by writers because, first of all, they're very enjoyable. And every writer says the way you learn to write is to write and read. But that's how you get better. And I mean, that's true of everything, but particularly writing, unless, of course, you had a real handicap of some point that you had to overcome first. Like maybe you couldn't put a sentence together, but then you get someone to help you with that. But that's really what writers always say. And I'm not against workshops or things like that, but I find sometimes, especially with writing, people think it's much more that you have to do it. I mean, it's hard work. Believe me, it's hard work, but you did the work. And one of the things I found interesting about your book and your journey was your persistence. And I'd like you to talk about that because I think some people like stop too soon. Like your journey was not like I found the answer overnight.
No.
And you had both emotional and physical trauma. And I loved how you just kept going. Even when it didn't work out, it led you to the next step. So tell us how that works for you and why that is so important, the persistence.
Oh, I think it's everything. Yeah, you're right. It's like the human spirit. It's so strong. And when you have such a desire, like for me, the desire was I wanted to come home. Home was back to the health and to happiness and to just to get away from everything that was happening. But of course, I had my moments of doubt. I had it. I did. I was scared. And I remember having those feelings of quitting. But they wouldn't last long. Yes, I had my pity party. Yes, I did. But then I remembered what it was I truly wanted. And I knew staying where I was at and giving up like that was never going to make me happy. And I guess there was something inside of me that knew that there was a way. Even though many doctors, had said that they wanted to, operate on me and, of course, cut things out. Something inside of me, and I truly believe it was the soul saying, no, my love, there's a better way. Keep going, keep going. So, yeah, it's so important that when you make a decision and you believe that you're going to get there, that's all you have sometimes. And that's all you need. It's just, and I kept if you read the book, it's like I wasn't giving a roadmap. I was just giving one step at a time. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us want to see the big picture, whether you're doing your soul's work, starting a new business, you want it all laid out for you. It doesn't work like that. You're going to get one step at a time because that's all you need. Mm-hmm. It's like driving in the car and you're in the dark in the forest. You cannot see miles and miles away, but you trust those headlights and you trust that all you need is those 10 feet. And every 10 feet, those lights will be guiding you and you will get to your destination. So, yeah, it's so important to whatever it is that you desire, if you make a decision that this is what I truly want, it's going to happen. It has to happen.
Yeah, you're very tenacious. I thought about it recently. I was watching a really interesting video this morning about synchronicity, and he mentioned that both love and anger draw you to something. So, and you had anger issues, but at the same time, it was the fuel that drove you to make the change. And I would like you to talk about how anger can be used positively to resolve the almost the negative side of anger, that it can be kind of used as
energy,
as an energy to, because he said fear was what you push away with fear, and I just thought it was interesting. It said love and anger, you go towards something. So and I mean anger in more of a useful way, not in sort of a neurotic way. So, but I noticed you had a lot of fire, like that's part of, seems to be, you have sort of a warrior's spirit,
I don't know so much about the anger. I for me, it is fear, to be honest with you. It's like the fear of staying that sick and the end result being you removing my organ and me forever being handicapped and never living a good life was the worst case scenario. That scared the hell out of me. And it was just the same thing when I remember studying becoming a nurse. The program was so horrible, so hard. Anybody ever, it's like nothing like college. Like when you do that a 2-year program like that, it was the hardest thing I've ever experienced. And because it was so painful, that it instilled like this fear of like, I cannot go there again. I must succeed. I must go forward, press play, and move beyond. Same with the illness. It was like I could not imagine myself living that nightmare and living that life like that. And I do think fear does move you. You know, there's been people who've told me that when they're about to go on stage, they're scared. They feel the fear. It's like the excitement and the fear are the same exact feeling.
Well, it's the adrenaline, and
it's adrenaline.
And
they have the same symptoms.
It's like sort of like a label, because everything is energy.
Everything.
So if we think of fear, anger as just energy, if we can kind of step back and observe it a little bit, which is hard to do when you're in the moment. But if you think of it that way, it is usable energy. Something that I heard once years ago that I love is turning, you want to turn things into usable life force energy. So, you know, limiting self-beliefs and fear can be turned into, you want to always ask for it to be turned into love and usable life force energy, as opposed to it sitting there just as fear. So it could become adrenaline that actually propels you to shoot up. And if you're performing per se, let's say, it actually helps you to like just light up the stage.
It's the energy, yeah. So for me, that's what it was. It was just the imagining being where I was at right now and living like that forever was like the worst. It was like a nightmare that I had to get out. I had to find a way.
One of the things I like, I have some quotes from your books that I thought were really helpful, like when you're talking about your childhood, and then you have some empathy for your parents' childhood, and you talk about what happened to them, even though you had gone through abuse. But then I really like this quote where you said, it's not about blaming our parents, but more about becoming aware of patterns and consciously deciding to release what no longer serves us and what we don't want to pass on to our children. Because now and then I have had clients where I feel like they are blaming their past too much at a certain point. Like they're old enough that maybe by now I would like them to be more conscious that that's not helpful. And I understand when we initially find out or have the abuse how that works, but I thought that was very helpful, and the fact that you could do that even though you'd gone through what you had gone through. And to me, again, that's like showing you're evolving consciously. And so I think that's really helpful to people to read that part.
Oh yeah, I think everybody here has, or the majority of people have had a parent or two that did not rise up to the occasion and do, but they themselves didn't have the tools. I mean, if I went back and if I look at the way my mother was raised and the way my father was raised, they had, especially my mom, she had a very empty toolbox. So you can't give somebody what you don't have. It was empty. And to become a mother at such a young age, I mean, just earlier before we went on air, I was telling you how freaked out I was. And I was, 40 when I had my first baby. I mean, she was 16. What do you know at 16? Really, you know? Yeah, a lot of people are stuck. And it's like you can choose to stay stuck in blame. And it's not your fault that you had that. Or you can take responsibility and empower yourself and do something with your life now. That past happened, but we keep it alive when we keep talking about it. And I noticed that it was just disempowering me. So it's like, and when people share it over and over again, as long as you share it in a way, there's an energy, when someone shares something, when they're still victims. And oh my God, I was a victim forever. Woe is me, Well,
because the victim mentality sort of gives us an excuse to kind of stay where we're like, can't do that because.
Exactly. We do not want to take accountability, responsibility for our lives.
I can't do this job that I really want to do. Or I'm doing this job, but I really want to make this transition. But no, someone like me can't do that.
It's just, and it's all excuses. They're just, to be plain and simple and really, really, really real. as an adult, the life that you have now is a summation of all your thinking, and it no longer has anything to do with your parents. That happened years ago. It is now time to grow up and make decisions and move on. And yeah, it's consciousness, it's awareness. And
so let's talk about that too. I think it's a good idea to define what constitutes thinking. In your mind, when you say, I remember you had that statistic or something like we have 65,000 thoughts.
Yeah.
Yes. Unbelievable. Isn't that
Yes.
crazy?
Yes.
So in your mind, when you say that, what do you mean exactly? Is it just whatever random thoughts or focused thoughts, or what do you define thinking as?
well, I think thinking is just thinking. Like, the brain's just moving and brain is activity. But it's different when you have, what's the word? Thinking that is, it's like conscious thinking, awareness thinking. It's like present. It's different than just random thoughts, because you can go throughout your day and have all of a sudden you're not feeling good, and it's because there's probably a lot of self-judgment going on, but you're not even aware. It's having that awareness and control over the thoughts. Those are powerful,
because most of those thoughts that are coming through, of those amazingly amount of thoughts that we have, most of them we're not conscious of. We kind of almost, we pick and choose based on security, survival, the past, what suits us at that time. And it really is about catching the thoughts that are going to be productive to help us make magic, right?
Yes, right. And it's
as opposed to kind of lingering on those thoughts where, like, when you've got a bad day and it just seems like nothing positive. Like, there's a million things positive that you could possibly hang on to, and you're just not going there. You're only kind of in that mode where you're catching the more unproductive type thoughts.
Yeah, right. And I think it's true thinking, creative thinking is. So you'll notice there's certain, thank God that those random thoughts don't really create the life, but when they're, right, or we'd be in deep trouble.
But we certainly believe that they can, don't we, sometimes?
Yeah, but it's the ones that are dominant. It's the constant dominant ones that are so dominant and happen so frequently. Those are the ones that are creating that are from habit. And then those are the ones that create the emotional feelings inside of us, and those are the ones that change the vibration within us, and those are the ones that are powerful and creative.
Well, when something is stuck in our neural netting that's negative, we really have to work actually to break that, so that it doesn't constantly do what you're saying, is creating this sort of existence that we have. We have to. So if you've got something stuck, I'm never going to be in a relationship that's harmonious and like, if that is stuck there, and it's really stuck there, embedded from childhood and young adulthood, and then these terrible, and some things are just more stuck in you than others. They're stuck in that neural net.
It's a dominant thought.
Yes.
That is a dominant thought that then creates the emotion.
Yes.
And then
the emotion,
the energy.
You won't take action or positive action because you're so stuck in that emotion from that thought.
Well, it's definitely the one that's creating the life that you have. So I always try to pay attention to what is my dominant thought. And I do have that thought about relationships. For the longest time, I had all these. I did not want to be single. I did not like to be single. And then it's like, I do have clients that constantly have that issue of they don't allow themselves to be happy because they don't have that relationship. And if they only knew, oh my gosh, my dear love, the more you hate being single, the more you will be single.
So true.
And I learned that the hard way. And it's like, and we attach these emotions that we want. What is a relationship going to bring you? It's going to bring me happiness, a feeling of worthiness. Someone loves me. It will bring you love and happiness. These are all the things that you want so bad, and yet you don't give them to yourselves right now, and you're attaching it to this outcome, and that's such a heavy baggage on that poor outcome. And that no wonder Mr. your soulmate, your Mr. Right is locked up, caged somewhere. He can't get to you because he's got all the baggage on him. can't get to you, baby girl. And I always tell people that, no. And I had to learn that I was having the same pattern of constantly looking for a man to give me, to make me feel good about me, to love me, to accept me, to make me happy. And then finally I realized that, oh, I have to give these things to myself. And then it shows up. And of course, it took me a bit. And a lot of people are not willing to do the work.
Yeah. It's hard because you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to do all this by myself, and I'm going to go to dinners with my friends, and I'm going to do this great hobby. But you can't do that because, and then when I do that, I'm going to get the guy. No, you have to genuinely really do it for yourself. Self-love, do it for yourself. And be happy regardless of whether the person shows up the week later or 5 years later.
You just let it go.
Yeah.
And you're right. People will do things for an outcome.
Right.
That is the best way.
I'm going to love myself so I get a guy to love me.
Right.
Like, wait a minute.
That's the best way to not get what you want.
Right.
And so for me, I remember it was December. I was really in a beautiful place. And I was dancing salsa and I was taking classes. And I just didn't care to be in a relationship. But with me, I was finally at that place where I was so happy to be with Mabel. And then, of course, when that happens, boom, the guy shows up 4 weeks later. You're like, no. I'm good. I'm finally happy with me. And, of course, that's exactly, it's like magic.
Just to jump in for a second, one of the things that I've often thought about that too that connects to this is you often hear that. I found my true love when I wasn't looking anymore for it. And I've often said that I think our parents give us like the worst dating advice on the planet. And they always say, try and be on your best behavior. And I think they should just say, be yourself. Yes. And I think when you're not looking to impress someone, you're being yourself. You're your natural energies, whatever that is. There's no inhibition. There's no artificial pretense. And I think when somebody sees you for who you are and likes you for who you are, that's like 95% of having a good relationship. It's just not having the pretentious BS in the way that we all think we want to impress someone this way or think this person's looking for this. Or, I'm an outspoken, loud, boisterous person, but no guy's going to want that. So I'm going to have to be gentle and quiet. So then you attract a guy that wants a gentle, quiet woman. The next thing you know, you're being loud and boisterous again because you revert back to your energy and it messes things up. And so I think that the biggest key in dating is just don't worry about what other people are looking for or what they want. Just be yourself. When you're being yourself, that's when the magic happens, I believe. So.
But that's the hard part is, and I agree with you, is I could not be myself because I did not love myself. That is the biggest thing. We talk about, you gotta love yourself. No, you really, really have to love yourself to be yourself, to attract the right people, the right circumstances, the right opportunities. Right. You got to come back home to alignment. So when I was saying back home, I was just thinking, I just want my body back and I want my health back. But I got so much more. It's like Spirit, God, Universe gave me even more. He said, honey, you have no idea what you just asked for. When you say come back home, it's not just the superficial. It is home back to soul, to the alignment, to who you came here to be. And I just got the biggest gift ever. Knowing who you are and who you're here to serve is the greatest feeling you could ever have in your life.
It's true. I struggled with exposing or expressing myself in general when I was younger. And once you really, however, get comfortable with it, there's just no other alternative. Like, we have a friend that always says, you and Michael, you're always the same. You're always, who I've met. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just too old now not to be myself. I've worked hard to get there. And now, luckily, it's stable. I'm going to be myself wherever I am and take it or leave it. I'm not going to try to defend it or whatever it is, and you'll find the right people in your life that accept that about you, who you are.
I just can't imagine you being happy not being who you are. It's like I said with the relationship, just like Michael said, it's like you will attract, it's like if you're an insecure person, you're not being who you are, you're going to attract someone who's doing the exact same thing. And then next thing you know, you're not getting what you want, they're not getting what they want, and the whole relationship explodes. And obviously I was doing that too, which is why I had so many failed relationships.
Well, because when you're mirroring someone, sometimes you realize, oh, wait a second, if I am not doing the work, then you're going to mirror someone who's not doing the work is also going to be there. So let me ask you this. When you have a client who comes to you and they're like, Mabel, I get what you're saying and I'm struggling with it. And I really do want to do the work. I really do want to love myself. What are some of the things that you tell people to do practically to help them get into alignment? What are some things that people that are listening now, like, I want to do the work, but I feel lost?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was there. One, you hire a coach.
And Mabel is available, and all her info will be on the sixthsensesociety.com.
Yeah, I think that's the greatest thing I've ever done, because there's so many things that we don't know. Like, your name, you live in the United States, that. But then you also, that you don't know certain things. Like, I know I don't speak Mandarin and Cantonese, but I know that. And then 80% of the stuff that's creating your life is the stuff you don't know. You don't even know. And it's a beautiful thing when you have someone there who can see between the lines. It can hear your story. It can see and what's happening. Because when you're so in it, you can't see straight. Mm-hmm. But there's people outside of you. And for me, I remember my first coach. I met her in Mystic Journey. And it was amazing. And the practical things that I started to do was, again, having the awareness. I started to meditate, because that allowed me to start connecting to a deeper, part of myself. I started becoming, we talk about awareness and all those things. People are not thinking creatively. They're not aware of their thoughts. They don't know how to think purposely to create what they want. And so for me, meditation started helping me with that. Right. I mean, it's like all the answers that I was looking for. Sometimes when I started to meditate, I started to walk down the hallway or be in the shower or be in the car, and it's just like boom, 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 massive epiphanies were coming at me. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I tapping into this information that I've been seeking all my life? And it just started coming out of the woodwork. And the other thing I started to do was practice. Now this is it's like the smallest minute thing that you can do is practice being the real you. And for example, we are the reason why we're not where we're at, I think, for a lot of us, and we're not successful, is because we care too much what people think. We just care too much. And in the end, no one's going to really be there for you in the end sometimes. Like, if you think about it, that person that you're so afraid of when you're in your bed and not able to, if you're not able to take care of yourself, are they really going to be there for you? No. So why do you care what they think? And so for me, it was practicing how to be the real me. And I remember being in the operating room, and I was the girl who could choose the music. And now the insecure me, if one of the surgeons didn't like my song, I would be mortified. I would change it right away, and I wouldn't own it. It was like that minute decision of, do I own who I am right now? This is the song that I like. I love it. It may sound weird to you. You may not like it. And if he didn't like it, he can change it. I go, we can change the song after my song is done. We can change the music after my song is done. Right. It was right then and there. You catch it. It's like, again, meditation helped me have the awareness of how I was not being me. I was able to be in that moment where I can catch it. Like, I was at the grocery store, and I think I was reading Us magazine, the Star, like not Star, but Us, Yes. And then there was a guy there reading Wall Street, and I felt like, oh, great. Like,
he's smarter than me.
He's smarter than me.
Right. The gossip rag, and he's like,
And you know what I did? I actually put the magazine, I wanted it, but I didn't want anyone to know that I read that, because I was being judged. Like, I cared with this guy behind me. So I put the magazine face down to cover it, and then I put groceries on top of it, and I caught myself again. It's that awareness moment, and it's practicing having the awareness. So what I did was, in that moment, I flipped it back over.
So what you're saying is you can baby step it.
Own it. It's practice. Again, I was at the Ritz, and I had there was a class I was taking there. My car, I just got in a car accident like 2 weeks ago, had a massive dent, and then the tire blew out, and I had a donut. So there's like these beautiful cars in front of me, and here I am with my wrecked car, and I remember freaking out, thinking, oh, this is mortifying, this is embarrassing. And we do that. We compare ourselves. You compare, you care too much. And again, the awareness. And the other thing I started to do was write in a journal. I wrote everything I loved about myself, because everything is energy, right? We talk about everything is energy.
Right.
And if I'm not owning, like, even the shoes that I'm wearing, even if I don't like my toes, like, it's, you are walking around, like, fragmented. And people don't understand it's the smallest and the little minute thing that you hate about yourself is disempowering you. You're walking around fragmented. You're not owning yourself, your power, your wholeness. You gotta love everything about yourself. Your past. You gotta love get rid of the shame, the guilt, where you grew up. If you can't own those things and you can't love that, then you are not able to be who you are. You cannot love yourself. You gotta own it. You grew up in the hood, beautiful. You grew up in the hood, the littlest things like that. I see so many people who are mortified about and hate their bodies. It's a big one.
Oh, that's a big one,
It's a
yeah.
huge one.
But you don't think
Especially
that matters?
here
It
in
matters.
Los Angeles.
It
Yeah.
matters.
And women, it's terrible. It's worse on women than men, although it's bad for everybody. But
Oh, we're hard on ourselves. I used to have a friend who hated her feet. It's like, but then I know she hates so many other things about herself. It's like you cannot, your energy is flat. There's like, there could be such a beautiful woman that walks into a room, and there could be a woman that's not like the model look,
right,
but yet there's something magnetic about her.
absolutely.
It's like, what is it about this woman that I'm being gravitated and I'm pulled by her? It's energy. She owns everything about herself. So write that list. And you'd be surprised when I tell people to do this. It's so hard to come up with 10 things.
Yeah.
And then I have someone write, what is it that you don't like? The list is like 50.
It's like 50, yeah,
and
exactly.
it's like, bam, it's so fast. And see, that's because you don't have the awareness.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the title of your book, the idea of embracing the shadow. And to you, what is the shadow to you versus what is the light? Because I think everyone might have a different understanding, since that's a big part of your book.
Right, embracing your darkness to find your light. I think we all have darkness. I remember Maya Angelou once said that why do we judge murderers and thieves and people who steal and people who lie? Why do we judge them when we ourselves have the same capability?
Absolutely.
There is, it's like a line right here. And I believe everybody has their negative traits and everybody has their positive traits. We have it all. What we choose to what side we decide to be in is definitely upon us. And the shadows are the things are your negative traits. We're all selfish. Please don't act like you're not. We all have our selfish sides, And I remember once telling me, well, don't make me think that you're like that. And if someone had told me that years ago, it would have crushed me, because, oh my God, he thinks I'm selfish. But then I remember that was like a very powerful moment for me. And I said, oh, you think I'm selfish? Well, guess what? I am. I can be very ungrateful. I can be very selfish. I can be all these things. I can be very dominating. I can be very controlling. Those are all aspects of Mabel, right? But I own that. And if you can't own that, then maybe you shouldn't be talking to me anymore.
And that's so true. And I think it gets a little misunderstood, at least in the New Age movement, that you're supposed to always show this one side of you and
have
be this
gratitude.
one side and fix the things that are actually part of you. Like we all
will
have
always be a
weaknesses.
part of us.
Yeah. You have to accept that's who I am. I'm like this.
You have to accept it and love it and embrace it. And of course, there's the compassion and the generous side of me and the loving side and it's like I always think about a diamond. It's like, if you hide half the facets of a diamond, we all understand, women know this, that the more facets a diamond has, the more brilliance it has, the more it shines. And I believe that what we do is we disown the negative traits, the negative facets of ourselves. So we're not shining, we're not brilliant, we're not owning the full power that we have inside of us. So that's the shadow part of ourselves. It's just owning that, stop judging it, and just embrace who you are. Because everybody has it. Every human being on this planet
this is why we
has
love
that.
Hannibal Lecter or like characters in movies that are like this, and we're kind of silently think he's cooler, and hope that he gets like, Jodie Foster in the end, like they hook up some, you know what I mean? It's like, especially when you have a brilliant actor, of course, doing it in a very brilliant performance, but you can look at a lot of storylines and a lot of films and a lot of literature where it's almost like we're rooting for the villain.
We do.
Because in a way, we're sort of rooting for that part of ourselves. I was thinking about what you're saying. We're rooting for that part of ourselves to embrace it, not to make it this sort of shadowy, like it's shut out. But how do we use this as energy productively in our life?
Everything has its place, Everything has its place. There will be moments where you need to show a negative aspect of yourself and use that negative aspect of yourself.
Sometimes we use it to protect ourselves or put our boundaries up when needed,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's like there was a show, The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Do you remember how everybody was rooting for the guy? We all loved him. I mean, the guy had like all these...
He was a gangster. He was the mob.
Killing people. But you loved him. You rooted for him because, you could see the whole picture.
Yeah.
And I think all have it inside of us.
Similarly, in The Godfather, at the end of the first one, Marlon Brando, right before he has a heart attack and dies, he's playing with his grandson, and he's literally going chip, chip, chip. He's praying to be a monkey, and he's dancing around, and he's playing with his grandson, and we've watched him do all these horrible things throughout the entire film. And then we see he just wants to, like, get down on the ground and be a dog with his grandson and play. Yeah. And it's just, so how could you say this? I mean, well, he was a monster. What is a monster? What is our dark side? What is our shadow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's I believe that's a big something that really changed my life.
It's true, and I'm sort of fascinated with the concept of a human being that integrates the two. You don't just become like some of each. You become something else. Mm-hmm. You also become a real memorable human being. I think someone with an integrated, as much as we have done that yet, and I don't think we have, certainly really accomplished that yet, because we're still really young with consciousness, and we're still really learning so much about how powerful the mind is, though really quickly now. I mean, there's the things that come out in physics, and it's so amazing what we're learning about consciousness in the mind. And you can even go study it now in school. I mean, that is so cool.
Oh, I'm excited about that. My child is on a different whole plane and realm. I mean, the fact that we are here and we're talking about this, and then we can give this to the next generation is amazing.
Now, what other thing I liked in your book was you talked a little bit about purpose, and you had that quote, one of your favorite quotes: "The purpose of life is to discover your gift. The meaning of life is to give your gift away."
I believe that was on
That's
my
beautiful.
heart.
I really love that.
I truly believe that it is our obligation not only to be happy, because we all share energy, right? If I was not happy, I would affect you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you would absorb that. And so it is my obligation to be happy, but it is my obligation to give what was given to me, because it wasn't given to me, it's coming through me, to be shared, to help humanity, to help people evolve. And it is my obligation. It was my obligation to find it. It was never out there, but I was definitely searching for it, right? It was always in here. And to share it, to give it, absolutely. There's nothing more amazing and fulfilling. To me, that is like the epitome of success.
And do you find that people ask about their purpose when they come to see you?
Oh, a lot. What is my purpose? What is my passion? And it's like, I get it. Because I remember doing the same thing. I remember the moment I realized that I mattered, that I really mattered, and that I wasn't just born and like my life was just random things happening to me and I had to be lucky. The moment I realized that I mattered and I was a born creator, that I had created everything from this point, I was like blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, I am a powerful person. I'm a powerful. It was the biggest, massive. I was on my bed. I remember I was reading Louise Hay.
Wow.
Book. Yeah.
Yes.
And I wrote about that in the book too, because it was such a powerful moment for me. The funny thing is we hear these things over and over again. And it's like, okay. And then sometimes you just have to hear it at the right time, right place. And it's like, wham, I got it to the cellular level. And it was a big, big transitional moment for me. But once I realized that there was a purpose for me, and I believed it in my heart, I believe you got to first believe that that you matter and that you do have a gift. It's your treasure. And it's, to me, it's like, if you don't even think the treasure exists, you're not going to go looking for it. Well, I went on the mission. So I tell people, I can't tell you what your purpose and your passion is. You're going to have to do the work. Don't we all want things handed to us?
Yes, I have that situation sometimes with people too, and all I can do is recommend ways to connect with it. You know, what has worked for me or other people for them. And sometimes I think it's easy, if you aren't connected to your big passions, to start with something really small, to reconnect with the energy of passion, to feel it in your body. And then as you feel it, you expand it into other things. Because it's like, it's just energy, you know?
And the thing too is a lot of people think it's just one thing. And this is what tricks people up. Your gift is really you. It's all of you. It's not like... In essence, there is this like zone of genius that you have, but I believe your gift is really giving all your passions, your strengths, your talents, your likes, and you put them all in the box. It's a package, and you have a recipe. So it's your quirks, your personality, it's everything about you. That's why you gotta love you. So you can know who you are and express that. So, like, for example, for me, there's a bunch of coaches out there, absolutely. But there is no other Mabel, right? So the gift is also how I deliver it to you. It's my energy. And like you said, everything is like, it's your energy. But if you're not owning your energy, you're not owning your gift at the same time. So I always tell people, get out there. Try everything that you've always wanted to do. And you can't think it, you got to feel it. And the only way to feel it is to physically do it. So, you know, I love music, right? I told you I was like the DJ in the operating room. And I thought I wanted to be a DJ. So what did I do? I enrolled in DJ school. I was like, I'm going to be a DJ. And they was like, God, this is really hard. This is hard. I don't like this. But I wouldn't have known that.
Yes.
Then you always wonder, right? You got to go try it all. And I remember I thought, I'm going to be a jewelry maker. And I was like, I'm going to go take jewelry class. And then I was like, this is hard. I couldn't sit there for hours putting it together. It drove me nuts. And I was like, well, scratch that. And so there was a lot of things. I even tried acting. And I believe when we're children, we actually are so connected to the soul. It's amazing. I always tell parents, it's not your job just to feed and clothe and like shelter them. It's like you've got to see what lights them up. Your children are showing you who they truly are, because children accept themselves. You notice how beautiful and magnetic they are? They're just so free, and you just love them. They say the most craziest things that you would never say, but you laugh, right? Yes. And they express their true selves, because they don't have that awareness of like, oh, someone's judging me, someone's thinking about me. And it's such a beautiful freedom, and that's the way we need to come back to being that, right? So I tried it. I tried everything. I remember being a little girl, and this is what I tell people: is go back to when you were a kid. And I remember I asked my family members. I remember when I was on the search for what did I do as a kid? Like, you love to teach. You love to teach. It was like we lived by the beach, and it was a hot summer day, and you had us doing math homework. I'm like, I did, and you listened to me. They're like, yeah, we listened to you. We could have been in the ocean. And another time is I'd go in the kitchen, and I'd grab my mother's wooden spoon, and I would go and I would start performing to the dogs, you know. Aww. And now that's my thing. It's like when I speak on stage, I become alive. It's not, I don't just have a microphone and I'm talking like this. I'm all over the darn place. And I'm like dancing and I'm animated. I am entertaining. And I'm speaking. I thought it was acting. Like the stage was calling me. Right? So you're close. You're close.
Right.
You're feeling that. You're getting the ideas. Go and do it.
Right.
Go. You're never gonna know until you feel it. And acting wasn't for me. And in how I found my way of speaking, and I don't know if you read that in the book.
Yes,
but
that was really,
that was another crazy
Yes,
thing.
that was.
Is I never thought I'd be a speaker on stage.
Right.
But the soul kept calling me, and it's so illogical. It never makes sense. Now people need to understand that with intuition, it does not make sense. It's just it's very illogical.
I think people, especially the older you get, they're like, but I'm 35, I'm 40, I'm 27, I'm 47. I don't have time to try all these things. I just want to figure out what the one thing is now, and it just, there is no, I had a woman, a coach once say, you can't avoid your process. You can't speed up your process. Whatever it's going to take you, whatever time it is the time. And if you to try to rush it or to try to like speed through it, is just going to bring you pain and agony, if that's what it's going to take for you to figure things out.
And it will take you time, because I too sometimes will catch myself wanting things yesterday, and I can get into that fear mode, and I'm like, why is this not happening? And that
I need money now.
Oh, that's money, right?
And I want to do my life's passion, but I also need money to live, and I need it to happen like next year, and
right. And
one of the things people seem to make a mistake in is they don't do even a little bit of their passion. Let's say that I really do have to work a job I don't like temporarily, but I can on the side do a little bit of what I really want to do, and they don't realize what a snowball effect that has.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love that you said the snowball. I was just thinking today, it's the snowball. It's so weird that you're saying that. So crazy. But it's, again, like the snowball did not become the big, massive snowball it is. It started picking piece by piece.
Takes time.
And every time you do something, it creates the bigger picture and the momentum. Look how fast when you pick up all the pieces of a snowball, it like that massive. Once it takes off, there's no stopping.
Yes.
When I was starting my work, this is it. You gotta really want it. You gotta have a hustle.
Yeah.
You gotta love the process. If you don't love the process, so if you're doing something because you want the outcome,
right,
you're in a bad position. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you right now, don't bother. I'll tell.
or if you
and
feel
I tell
entitled
people,
of it. I mean, so many people feel just
oh,
entitled.
yeah. And it,
like, why should I have to work that hard to do that? Or this other thing came easy to me, so everything should come easy to me. And it's like there are things in life that you really need to work for. It's a challenge, but it's worth it.
Yeah, you have to do the work. You have to do the time. So when I was, in the operating room, while everybody went to lunch break, I went to write. During the time, if they canceled a case, I journaled. I wrote. Every second I had, I used. That's you see. Don't tell me you don't have time. There is time, and when you want it, you will make the time. There's just excuses. And
I'm too tired. I need my lunch break. I want to relax.
We're getting close to the end of the show, and how can people contact you?
Okay,
so my website is mabelrodriguez.la, which I'm sure you guys, but it's under construction.
Yes, we're going to post it.
And it will be available. But if you also look me up on social media, I'm everywhere. It's Mabel Rodriguez LA. And you can find me there too. Absolutely.
So any last word of advice or wisdom you'd like to share?
Honestly, the greatest gift you can give yourself is to truly be yourself and understand it doesn't, not to give your power away. And when I say that, you got to stop caring so much what other people think. And if you can own that, your life will change. That one thing you need to do is not care what anybody thinks, and the world will be your oyster.
That's wonderful.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great way to end the show. Thank you so much, everyone. Please like, share, subscribe. We love you, and we're so happy to have you part of this community with us.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. And thank you, Mabel, so much for coming on.
thank
This was really
you.
wonderful.
It was a great show.
Enjoyed
Thank
it.
you very
This was
much.
fun.
She's lit, baby.
I'm lit, honey.
She's lit.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.